Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nova Student Film Podcast. On this episode, we will be discussing mental health in the film industry and dealing with anxiety and depression while working collaboratively in film. I am joined today by Andrew and our special guest, Gabriella. If you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
So, hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Lujan. I am a second-year film student here at Nova. And actually, in 3 weeks, I'll be transferring to Virginia Tech to further my pursuits in cinema. So I'm excited to talk about the podcast.
Exciting. All right, Gabriella.
Hi, my name is Gabriella. I am a production manager at a multimedia production company called Citizen Race Car that's based in New York. We make documentaries sometimes, but we actually specialize in podcasts. So it's fun to be on one myself.
Well, welcome on. So let's just get right into it. Anxiety, depression, what is it? How does it affect us? So I thought we could start by briefly discussing the symptoms and the effects of anxiety and depression. So I'm just going to very briefly, just for anybody who's listening, maybe is not familiar, some symptoms of anxiety include racing heart, dizziness, nausea, shortness of breath, shaking, sweating, palms, or then feeling hot. Symptoms of depression, fatigue, loss of interest, decreased energy, feelings of low self-esteem or control, disturbed sleep and poor concentration. It's important I want to preface the next part by saying that these symptoms are pretty across the board for people who have these mental illnesses. However, the way that those symptoms present, the way that people present those symptoms are very different, very unique to every person. That being said, some of the effects, more general effects of anxiety and depression are isolation, difficulty networking, because it's draining or because of feelings of panic or fear, lack of engagement, overly self-critical and doubtful, and difficulty speaking up. So those are just some effects that could happen at the workplace in terms of anxiety and depression. So I just want to open up discussion by saying, have any of you felt any of the effects of anxiety or depression?
Absolutely. 100%.
And has that interfered with your work at all?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it's interfered more with my peace than my work. I would actually say that my work is probably better because of the fear and anxiety. I think that my work makes it. And then I think that it kind of builds momentum and it actually keeps me on my toes with the work that I do. But it's certainly not how I don't like it. Like, it's not fun. And in those moments, I actually think about quitting or leaving the industry altogether, because it doesn't, if that's my energy, then that's not a healthy motivator for my work.
That's interesting that you said that it has made you feel like quitting sometimes, because in a study we're going to talk about a little bit later, people in your age range have reported, I think it was about 70% of these people who took a survey reported that they have wanted to quit the industry altogether just because of how their mental health has been treated or how their mental health affects their work. So that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Andrew, how about you?
Oh, yeah. I really do think that not only have I had like anxiety and depression and whatnot, just on the regular basis, but it's interesting how it does take hold of those things you enjoy, whether those creative outlets that you might use on a daily basis, such as like drawing or writing or whatnot, using within the creative medium. It really is interesting how it can take effect and I guess ruin that, I guess.
So moving on from this, I do want to talk about the study I mentioned. So this study took place in the UK from the TV and Film Charity is what the organization is called. And it was prompted because sadly in 2017, Michael Horn, who was a UK-based locations manager with credits like Pirates of the Caribbean and Harry Potter, sadly died by suicide. It kind of shook the industry in the UK, and all his colleagues, they decided that this was something that was not being talked about enough, that it was a prevalent problem, and that something needed to be done. So the TV and film charity did a survey called The Looking Glass. And I just want to share with you some of those statistics because it is actually kind of jarring how negative things are. So just to preface, everybody who took this is in the film industry, okay? 9 in 10 reported experiencing mental health problems. Over half of the respondents reported having had considered suicide. 22% of LGBTQ plus workers in the industry have attempted to take their own lives. 82% of respondents have witnessed or experienced bullying in the workplace, with 69% of those being Black men. Workers in the film and TV industry are 3 times more likely to harm themselves. 7% of respondents reported that they would not feel comfortable coming forward about their mental health. Of those who did come forward about their mental health, 28% of them said that nothing really improved, and 5% said that it made matters worse. There are companies that are trying to respond to this mental health crisis by offering counseling or being more open with their employees. But do you think that what has happened so far has been enough, if these are still the statistics?
I guess is my first answer. I'm glad that people have tried. I think that's something, and I don't know if that the study went into this, but, and I don't work high end in the industry. Like I don't work at Universal or anything like that. But from what I've learned, both in my jobs and then also in film school, I think the reasons behind the mental health stuff is pretty clear. I don't think it takes a lot to figure out why all of the people are the way that they are. And I have a business degree that specializes in film. And so a lot of what I learned in school was about money and organization and logistics and how film plays out, right? Like, how do you make a movie from scratch? How does that work? Or how do you make a TV series? And the fact of the matter is that there are so many moving parts, like countless moving parts that are very difficult to solidify, coordinate, are extremely expensive. And there's a very high risk that it's not going to work. So I think all of those elements going into work with all of those things already in place means that it's going to be a really stressful situation and a stressful environment. And the fact of the matter is that when you see a movie or watch a TV show, sometimes a lot of money is thrown, but never, ever, ever enough. And only enough to have the piece make money, and just enough to keep the people who work on it sustained in order to keep working. And I can't really think of an executive who would not do that because they're under so much pressure, and because the money comes from donors and, or everyone wants to know where the money, everyone wants to see the money back, essentially. So the very little, as little money as possible is usually invested. And so because of that, it causes pressure where people have to work in these environments. It obviously that's going to cause extreme stress and all of the things that you mentioned. And so if the structure of how we approach projects and how they're funded doesn't change, then I don't really see the mental illness changing either.
You have had experience in the industry, well, more than me, but have you seen this toxic narrative, like, suck it up? Like, this is the work. Like, you do the work. Maybe you're not cut out for it if you're experiencing this, or maybe this is not for you. just
100%. If I could, I don't want to waste a ton of time, but so I have a very good friend. I'm not going to mention her name or the project, but I have a very good friend, extremely talented, who I worked with in college. And she wanted to be a costume designer. That was her aspiration. She was a beautiful costume designer. She had made beautiful things from scratch on projects we had worked on together when we were in college. And, we had time, these factors weren't in play, and we were just having fun. And then when she got out, she was determined to find a way to climb up the ladder and do it. And she was willing to do a lot and to sacrifice a lot in order to get there. And she worked as a PA, which was absolutely brutal. I was living with her at the time while she was a PA. And then she eventually got promoted as a costume coordinator, which is basically that person on a TV set. They handle the logistics of returns and money when it comes to the wardrobe department. So she still wasn't in a place where she could make creative choices, but she was now dealing with kind of the logistical muck of the department. And it was extremely brutal. She was making minimum wage in New York, which is hard. She was working up to 60 hours a week, I would say. And then it was funny because she kept thinking that if she got a different job or if she worked for a different network, it would get better. And so the final straw actually was that she ended up working for, I'm not going to say it, but what would be considered a really good gig. Like if anybody was going to take care of their people, this was a company that had tremendous amount of money, that was trying to get into the TV business. They had an amazing cast, a huge crew. Like it looked like she was basically set. And I wasn't living with her at this point. And I got concerned because after a couple weeks over this job, I had not heard from her. And that was a strange thing. And I started getting texts from her. Her response to texts were coming at like 2 a.m, or like 5 o'clock on a Saturday, like very strange times. And I asked what was going on. And she said, I'm at work. I'm always at work. Like I can't stop working. And I found out that she was sleeping at the studio most of the days. And that what was going on is the talent of that particular project was so demanding that she was expected to make something out of nothing, depending on whatever whim they were on. She had at the start of that project, she was supposed to start. It was during the pandemic, so that was hard enough. She was supposed to start at a particular point in the winter. That start date was delayed by a month because one of the main actors was negotiating for more money, and so that delayed everybody's checks, including hers. And that was just that's just what it was. And it got to a point where she quit. And not only did she quit the project, but she quit the industry. And now she's going into something else. So yeah,
that's a lot. Okay. I'm assuming she did not feel protected in that environment.
No, she didn't feel. Even when she left, she actually, I think she stayed to like help while the transition happened to a new person that they were going to torture. I mean, there was just it was amazing how abusive that became. And again, not going to say them, but this was the last company, last group of people, last group of actors that you would imagine would do these things. So yeah, it was really, really tough. And she just, she got older and she got tired and she decided that she wanted enough money to live her life and she wanted to be happy and she wanted weekends and she wanted to sleep. And now she's doing that. So it's unfortunate, but it's true.
How about you, Andrew? Have you ever felt like you witnessed any of this toxic rhetoric that if your mental health is not at peak performance, you're not for this? Like this is not for you?
Nothing really within the creative realm, especially here at Nova. But I mean, I think it really just with Gabriella's incredible professional evaluation of that, I mean, it really does portray why representation in the industry matters, both artistically and just, of course, within the business aspect of it overall.
It's very true. Have you ever felt, and this is more geared towards Gabriella right now, comfortable discussing your mental health with your coworkers or supervisors?
Coworkers, yes. There's definitely one thing I'll say, and I'm sure Andrew can speak to this as well. There's something that I've loved with all of storytelling, the whole storytelling industry, whether it be theater or film or whatever. It's such a sense of camaraderie when a group of people come together and decide that they're going to make something new. It's really, really fun. And you feel kind of like a family. And so I've felt like that every place I've been. I know I'm very fortunate right now to be working in a place where if I was in a stressful pinch, I could talk to my boss and he would do something about it. I haven't felt like that with my previous jobs at all. But I do work for a particularly calm person who runs his own business and he has a family himself and honestly just can't deal with it himself. So he doesn't put up with it from clients and he doesn't expect us to. So that's a different situation. But I don't, I do think that from what I've heard and experienced, it's kind of the trial by fire of it all is not just, are you talented and useful? It's, can you deal with this? Because this is life. And so if you can't, there is a bit of an attitude of, if you can't, you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen type of situation.
Have either of you experienced having to work collaboratively when you're dealing with a mental health issue?
Definitely.
And if so, can you share a little bit about your experience? Like, what got in the way, do you believe?
I guess just kind of talking to people, I guess people who are like-minded, just like myself, people who are my age, when it comes to things, especially where my main creative experiences lie within the academic realm, especially here. I guess, just talking to people that I'm friends with or talking to people that are like my age who have gone through those exact experiences and I guess really trying to confide just with people who are like-minded, just like myself, or people who just, have experienced that.
That's an interesting question. I don't really feel, if anything, I feel like the collaborative stuff has been helpful. Like I said, one of the things that I love the most about this type of work is the level of collaboration with other people. It really requires a team effort. And I don't like just working by myself. I love working with other people. So that's really fun. When you are working with when someone who's above you, right, and they're part of that pressure, then that's hard because you kind of have to put on a brave face all the time. Or it's interesting. Sometimes you have to juggle. Like I had one employer who he just made very poor choices when it came to things like this, when it came to people's well-being, on set. And it was simple things like where people are going to wait before they film or what they're going to eat, come lunch, or how long they have to wait until they have to eat and those things. And it was funny because, he was writing my checks, he was my boss but it was my job to deal with those logistics. But then when I would ask him questions or when I would insist on something, he would pull me back and say, no, we're going to do it this way, or you don't need to worry about that, or something to that nature. So then, then you basically have to decide between doing the right thing or losing your job. And that's a terrible situation to be in.
Yeah. I guess I can also speak to this a little bit. This really shows how we could all struggle with mental health and it presents differently for everybody, because I don't have the same experience as you. Whereas like if I'm struggling with my mental health and I'm trying to work collaboratively, it is very difficult for me to reach out, where it's like I start panicking and then I isolate. Mm-hmm. That's my go-to. If I'm very severely in a mental health episode, my go-to is avoidance, just total avoidance. No productivity, like nothing is happening. So it's just very interesting to see the differences between people when dealing with mental health, and how it is important for employers to realize that not everybody is going to present the same way, but everybody's mental health is still important. So while you're working, if you're in a bad bout of mental health, how do you cope with that? that can be for you too, Andrew. Like when you're working on, whether you're working on assignments at Nova or you're working on some like projects outside of Nova, how do you cope with poor mental?
I really think just confidence and just, finding comfort in the things that you can do, I guess, when you are going through those mental health bouts, or really just, being able to look to your peers to get through it, to really just get through it. And I guess just see how you can navigate through those like murky waters. I guess just confidence overall. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really is interesting how, when you are in that situation, how much smoother things can be when you are able to like face it as a unit rather than just facing it by yourself. Just like you said, like avoidance, like that was kind of one of my forces of operation when I was going through bouts like that. So, really just facing it as a unit, and that can really just help make things a lot smoother.
And how about you, Gorilla?
I think, I don't know, this isn't as, I guess, not nice as an answer, but I do really well when I sit down and organize things. That's basically what my job is. And I find it soothing just in my personal life as well. And so if I'm really overwhelmed, or feeling some anxiety, I feel like if I take a step back, take a beat, look at it again, writing things down. I'm really, really pro writing things down. Sometimes I have at work, I have lists of stuff all over the place. I have lists for clients. I have lists for the producers. I have, in all these different places. And sometimes I just have to take a paper and pen and sit down and write everything just for me. And that makes me, I guess it's a control thing. It makes me feel like I have some more control. And it helps soothe that.
Have you found that you've ever been, I know that your job is more logistic, but like, have you ever found that when dealing with a mental health issue, you've been like creatively blocked? And if so, how do you push through that?
Yeah, I mean, I've said in times that I've been creative, there's been a couple. There was one, I guess, big project that I was doing where I was also doing logistical stuff, which was dumb, to try to do both. And the anxiety of the one was affecting my, making good creative choices. What do you do? I mean, I think I think you have to remind yourself, especially in this industry. And actually, my boss, who I mentioned before, he's really good about this. He talks me through this all the time. You have to remember that this is not a big deal. And, it feels like the world, when you're working on something creative, and there's so much money and there's so many moving parts that have to be coordinated at the right time. And they all have to come together. So many things have to come together, and that brings a lot of stress. But the truth is, if this thing does not get made, the world will go on and no one will die. And it's fine. You're making something and it's for recreation. It's for fun. You're telling a story that you think is really important or that you're passionate about, but nothing as bad is going to happen if it doesn't happen, or if it doesn't happen on time. So my boss, actually, he just bought me he always says to me whenever I'm stressed, he says there's no life and death situations in podcasting, to remind me of what I'm saying. He actually just sent me as a gift a needlepoint, like, I don't know what they're called, but those little circles of needlepoint. And it's like a nice old lady thing with flowers, and it says there's no life and death situations in podcasting. And now whenever I get stressed, he just tells me to look at my needlepoint. But that's true. And I think in the industry, everyone's going to tell you the opposite. They're going to tell you that this means the world, but cancer means the world. Heart disease means the world. Maybe politics, anything that actually affects people. Nothing is going to happen if your thing doesn't get made. So just calm down.
It sounds like you have a very open work environment where your boss is actually being very receptive to make sure that you're feeling comfortable and that your worries are alleviated. Would you say that's true? Like your boss?
Probably almost too much so. We're really, really small. And we talk constantly. So I think that's why we've just develop this rapport. But like I said, this is miles away from the 2 jobs that I had previously. This is new. So I'm used to places where, you're making choices that sometimes seem unethical, honestly, and how they're going to affect other people. And it's just I don't think it's worth it. So any advice I would give would be to find a place that supports you and recognizes these issues and recognizes that it's not the end of the world. And if that means that the project is smaller or has a smaller audience, I mean, that's a decision. I think you need to look at that. Like, why is your mental health worth sacrificing for the sake of you working on something that will give you recognition or be seen by more people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, anything to add?
No, I think that was perfectly stated. I guess just to reiterate, I mean, taking your time. Like, I've had personal projects and school projects I've worked on that have taken me, I guess, multiple years of development to, a week or a month of development. And I think I've been proud of both of them. So I think that's a great thing to look at as a creative.
So to end this, I have 3 trivia questions just because I thought it'd be fun. Okay, so first question. What percentage of people in the film TV industry struggle to find a work-life balance? A, 47%, B, 52%, C, 78%, or D, 82%? So, Andrew, what do you think?
I would say C.
C, and Gabriella?
That was going to be my guess. And I think it's possible that it could actually be 82%, but I'm going to say 78%.
All right. The correct answer is C. So you both get points for that one.
Yes.
Next question. What percentage of people felt like there was sufficient support while working with traumatic stories? A, 16%, B, 21%, C, 26%, or D, 32%? All right, Gabriella, you go.
I'm going to say, let's say B, 21%.
B?
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew?
I'm going to go with C again.
B? All right. The correct answer is A. So neither of you felt like there was sufficient support when working with traumatic stories, which is interesting because whenever you see like mental health in movies, it's always like, oh, we had like a psychologist on the set of Suicide Squad because it was traumatic. So it's
for the gaffer, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway,
it's just sad that 16% felt supported in that. Anyways, moving on to the last trivia question. What percentage of respondents to the survey taken by the TV and film charity had a mental health issue, said that the fear of being excluded from future work opportunities had stopped them from seeking help? Is the answer A, 29%, B, 34%, C, 38%, or D, 42%? All right, Andrew, you go first.
I'm going to say B, 34%.
All right, Gabriella?
I'm going to say D,
D?
42%. Mm-hmm.
And with that, Gabriella is the winner of trivia. 42% of people have decided to not seek help in the fear that the future opportunities would just stop coming to us. So with that, those sad statistics, that's the end of the podcast episode. All right. So thank you guys for talking to me today about this.
Thank you.
I feel like I learned a lot, and I appreciate both of you. All right. Well, thank you guys.